The courtroom was already against her. She worked 2 jobs, waitress by day, night shift cleaner by night, and standing across from her was billionaire CEO Richard Lawson, a man worth hundreds of millions, a man who publicly called her worthless. But what happened next shocked even Judge Judy, because hidden inside a simple brown folder was something nobody expected: a full scholarship, a perfect academic record, and a secret sacrifice that would leave the entire courtroom speechless. The courtroom became completely silent the second the homeless man walked inside. Torn jacket, worn boots, tired eyes. And standing across from him at the plaintiff's table was a wealthy businesswoman named Rebecca Collins. Luxury suit, diamond jewelry, cold expression. The kind of woman used to getting exactly what she wanted. Judge Judy quietly reviewed the case file while courtroom cameras focused on both sides. The audience watched silently because, honestly, the homeless man already looked guilty. Judge Judy slowly looked up. "Mr. Michael Carter." The homeless man quietly nodded. "Yes, Mom." Judge Judy adjusted her glasses. "You are accused of breaking into private property owned by Miss Collins." Michael lowered his eyes. "Yes, Mom." A murmur spread through the courtroom. Rebecca crossed her arms confidently. "He was sleeping inside my abandoned warehouse." Dangerous pause. "He had absolutely no right to be there." Boom. Several audience members nodded. Even they seemed convinced. Judge Judy slowly reviewed another page. No permanent address. Another page. No employment. Another page. No family listed. Complete silence. Michael sat quietly. No excuses. No arguments. Nothing. Judge Judy noticed immediately. Interesting, very interesting. Because guilty people usually talked too much, this man barely spoke at all. Rebecca smirked confidently. "Honestly, people like him always have a sad story." Boom. Several people reacted. Michael remained silent. Still calm, still broken. Judge Judy slowly folded her hands together. Because, honestly, something felt wrong, and she couldn't explain why. Judge Judy slowly leaned forward. "Mr. Carter." Michael looked up. "When was the last time you had a place to live?" The courtroom became quiet. Michael hesitated, then answered softly. 3 years ago." Boom. Several audience members reacted instantly. Judge Judy continued reading. "You were once employed as a firefighter." Michael nodded. "Yes, Mom." "Interesting. Very interesting." Rebecca immediately rolled her eyes. "What does that have to do with breaking into my property?" "Dangerous mistake." Judge Judy slowly looked toward her. "I'm asking the questions." Complete silence. Michael quietly folded his hands together. Judge Judy continued reviewing the file. Former firefighter, former homeowner, no criminal record, no arrests, no violence, nothing. Interesting. Because, honestly, this wasn't the profile she expected. Rebecca crossed her arms. "He's still trespassing." Michael lowered his eyes. "Yes, Mom." Judge Judy noticed something again. Interesting. Very interesting. He never denied it. But he wasn't defending himself either. Almost like he didn't care what happened to him anymore. The courtroom became silent. Judge Judy slowly asked, "Why that warehouse?" Michael looked down at the defense table, then quietly answered, "Because it stayed warm at night." Boom. The courtroom instantly grew uncomfortable. Even Rebecca looked away briefly. Michael continued. "I wasn't trying to steal anything." Silence. "I was trying to survive." Another silence. Judge Judy carefully studied his face. No anger, no manipulation, no performance, just exhaustion. Years of exhaustion. And honestly, the entire courtroom could feel it. Then suddenly, the courtroom doors burst open. Bang. Everyone turned. A little girl stood in the doorway, maybe 8 years old, tears running down her face, breathing hard, terrified. The courtroom froze, because the second she saw Michael Carter, she pointed directly at him and screamed, "That's my dad!" Boom! The entire courtroom exploded with reactions. The courtroom erupted instantly. People stood from their seats. Several audience members gasped. Rebecca Collins looked completely stunned. Judge Judy immediately slammed her gavel. Order. Boom. The room slowly quieted. The little girl stood trembling near the courtroom entrance. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Judge Judy looked toward the court officer. Bring her forward. Moments later, the child stood beside the plaintiff's table. Michael Carter looked frozen, completely frozen, like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. His eyes immediately filled with tears. Judge Judy softened slightly. Sweetheart. The little girl looked up. The girl nodded instantly. Yes. Judge Judy continued. How? The little girl pointed directly at Michael. That's my daddy. Boom. The courtroom reacted again. Michael lowered his head and started crying quietly. For the first time since entering court, Judge Judy noticed immediately. Interesting, very interesting. Because this wasn't the reaction of a criminal. This was the reaction of a broken father. Judge Judy looked toward Michael. You have a daughter? Michael nodded slowly. Yes, Mom. The courtroom became silent. Judge Judy looked back at the file. Interesting, very interesting. Because according to court records, Michael Carter had no family listed, no dependents. Nothing. Judge Judy slowly removed her glasses. Then, why isn't she in your file? Complete silence. Michael looked toward the little girl, then quietly answered, because I lost custody. Boom! The courtroom froze. The little girl immediately grabbed his arm. No, you didn't. Tears streamed down her face. You never left me. Complete silence filled the room. Judge Judy slowly leaned forward because, honestly, something about this story wasn't adding up, and things were about to get much worse.
A poor mechanic quietly worked inside a small garage late at night. Rainwater slowly dripped from the old metal roof. The garage smelled like oil and smoke. His hands were covered in grease, but despite the exhaustion, he continued fixing an old customer's car alone. Then suddenly, a loud luxury sports car stopped outside the garage. 3 rich teenage boys stepped out laughing loudly. Donna's door closed. Expensive chains, arrogant smiles. One boy looked around the dirty garage and laughed. Bro, this place smells disgusting. The mechanic quietly stood up. Do you need help? He asked politely. But the boys weren't there for repairs. One rich boy suddenly stepped forward and pushed his muddy sneaker toward the mechanic. Clean this first. The others instantly started laughing. The mechanic froze silently, thinking it was a joke. But the boys pulled out their phones and started recording him. Come on, old man, one laughed. That's probably your real job anyway. The mechanic quietly lowered his eyes, humiliated. But he still said nothing. Then suddenly, one rich boy kicked dirty water directly onto the mechanic's work clothes. The garage became completely silent. Even nearby workers looked uncomfortable now. But the rich boys kept laughing. One of them zoomed the phone camera closer to the mechanic's tired face. The livestream comments exploded instantly. Some viewers laughed. Others begged them to stop. But the mechanic still stayed calm, like life had already broken him too many times before. Then suddenly, bright police lights flashed outside the garage. And the moment a police chief stepped inside, everything changed.
The courtroom remained completely silent after the little girl spoke. He became homeless because he never stopped trying to save us. Nobody moved. Nobody even breathed loudly, because suddenly, homeless man sitting at the defendant's table didn't look like a criminal anymore. He looked like a father, a broken father. Judge Judy slowly removed her glasses. For several seconds, she said nothing. Interesting, very interesting, because after decades on the bench, she had learned something important. Children could be coached, adults could lie. But genuine love was difficult to fake. And the little girl standing beside Michael Carter looked completely genuine. Judge Judy slowly looked toward Rebecca Collins. Collins. Rebecca looked nervous now, very nervous. Judge Judy folded her hands together. Did Mr. Carter damage your warehouse? No. Silence. Did he steal anything? No. Another silence. Did he threaten anyone? No. Boom. The courtroom reacted instantly. Judge Judy leaned forward. So let me understand this correctly. Dangerous pause. You want this court to jail a homeless widower who slept inside an abandoned building to avoid freezing to death? Complete silence. Rebecca lowered her eyes, for the first time all hearing. Judge Judy slowly shook her head. Interesting, very interesting, because the entire case suddenly felt different now. Judge Judy looked back toward Michael. Mr. Carter, Michael looked up quietly. When was the last time you saw your daughter before today? His voice weakened. Almost 2 years. Boom, the courtroom froze. The little girl immediately hugged his arm tighter. Judge Judy noticed tears forming in Michael's eyes. Interesting, because throughout the entire hearing, he never cried for himself, only for her. Judge Judy slowly looked toward the child. How did you find out about this hearing? The little girl answered softly. I saw his picture online. Silence. I knew it was him. Another silence. So I came. Boom. Several audience members visibly wiped tears away. Judge Judy slowly leaned back because, honestly, the entire courtroom was emotional now. Then Judge Judy opened the final document in the case file. Interesting. Very interesting. She carefully reviewed the page, then looked back toward Michael. Well, pause. That changes everything. The courtroom became completely silent again. Judge Judy slowly smiled. A rare smile. These documents show a veterans housing organization approved your application 3 weeks ago. Boom. Michael looked stunned, completely stunned. Judge Judy continued. You have a home waiting for you. The courtroom erupted. The little girl immediately burst into tears. Michael covered his face, unable to stop crying. Judge Judy softly nodded. And according to these records, dangerous pause. Your custody review process has already begun. Boom, the courtroom exploded with reactions again. The little girl threw her arms around her father. Michael hugged her tighter than anything in the world. Judge Judy quietly watched, then delivered one final sentence. Never judge someone by where they sleep. Complete silence filled the courtroom. Because sometimes the strongest people are the ones carrying the heaviest burdens. Boom! And as Michael Carter walked out of the courtroom holding his daughter's hand, nobody inside saw a homeless man anymore. They saw a father who refused to quit, no matter how much life tried to break him.